Uriel's the funniest. Lucifer's the prettiest.
The way that he said it, I was just like, did they have a crush on Lucifer?
I'm
Like,
gonna say Cass is the biggest simp. Hello and welcome to Saving People Queering Things, the supernatural podcast where we talk about how Dean desperately needs a hug more than usual.
Today we are pulling up to season 4 with episode 16, On the Head of a Pin.
My name is Abigail. I'm one of your hosts, and my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Noah. My pronouns are he, him.
I'm Elayna. My pronouns are she, they, and we are joined by a guest this week. Please introduce yourself, friend. You've been here before.
hi everyone. Yes, I'm Allie. I have been here once before. Pronouns are she, her, and I'm just so thrilled to be here for this episode.
We're so glad
Hell
you're
yeah.
back.
Glad to have you.
Welcome back. It's been like a full season since you were last on the show. So.
Literally, yeah.
Almost, has it been exactly a full season?
Actually,
No.
I'm gonna go double check,
Well,
but I'm
'cause
pretty
last
sure
season-
it probably was.
Close to it. It wasn't
Yeah.
episode 16. It was
they only had-
earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
didn't have
do
that.
remember that when we finished recording that episode, we were like, let us know what episode you want to be on for season 4. And
You
you
had
were
this
like,
one
this
claimed.
one.
I just like, and I'm so lucky I got it.
Yeah, you claimed it early.
Episode. It was a Bella episode.
Yeah, I think you were on Red Sky at Morning. I think that's when you were on last.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of claiming episodes in advance, Elayna, you have been waiting for this episode
Listen.
as long as you've been involved in the show. This is what you told me
Yes.
you loved, like back when we first met.
Yeah, I remember I just shared this story before we started recording with Abigail again, because the time that I was on the very first 2 episodes, I remember like at the end of them being like, oh man, like I don't know if I'll ever get to do the show again, but I hope if I do that it'll be for On the Head of a Pin in season 4. And then
Surprise!
Well, look
and
at
then
that.
the universe said, hold my beer.
Just roped you in.
I'm so proud.
Yeah,
You were like,
I'm-
or it could be on every episode.
I
from
have never
till
been
then.
so thrilled to get trapped into something in my life. It has just been a wonderful journey.
It's the opposite of a mystery spot.
Yeah, it's like I would love to be stuck in this loop for as long as possible, which is great because it's going to take us like 8 years to finish this.
Yeah. It'll be great.
Probably.
What it won't take us 8 years to do is recap this season and this episode. So let's do
Gorgeous
that.
segue. Love that for you.
Okay, now while you're up,
Awesome.
what is important
It's
going
gonna
into
be-
this episode?
It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a full 30 seconds.
It really is.
Tell us what we've missed on the road so far.
Okay. I'm ready. Give me a little countdown. Let's do it.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okie dokie. Dean is brought back from hell. He is gone on a huge journey about trying to figure out why the angels may have brought him back, what it has to do with Sam, why this hot angel keeps coming to him. And he hasn't gotten any closer to the answers, really. What he has learned is that Sam is getting darker and darker, fucking a demon. Cool. They've been doing case after case, but getting more and more hints from the angels that they're breaking more seals and they need to do better to stop Lilith in the apocalypse. And yet they're still here, fucking up more in Hot Angel.
Noah, one of your best recaps so
It
far.
was a really good recap.
Thank you.
Noah,
Thank you.
why do you insist on being my favorite person? Just it's rude
it's
to
a
others.
condition.
I just have to. How did you keep a straight face saying that? Like,
Years
Well
of practice.
it's so fun.
Okay,
So how about this episode recap?
yeah, Allie, tell us when you're ready.
Okay, I think I'm good, but I'm probably gonna ruin it. So go ahead.
No,
Oh,
you're gonna be great.
You're gonna be amazing. I would say believe in yourself like Sam does in this episode, but that's probably
Oh.
not a good idea because
That's a
That seems-
little problematic.
It's not.
you know
the
the general like believe in yourself. Anyway, I'm gonna count you in. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so Cass and Uriel are still behind Dean's ass because they want him to do things that he doesn't want to do. This time they're asking him to go and torture a demon, which Dean obviously does not want to do because, well, triggered. And then Sam becomes like even more scared of himself because he wants demon blood and he doesn't want to drink it, but he drinks it in the end. So that's what happens.
Nice.
Ah,
I wanted to be short and I ended up having like 8 seconds, but
that's usually
Yeah,
how it
Killed
works.
it.
Succinct.
Got everything you needed to get. It's exactly what we're looking for.
I'm excited.
So now it is time for us to pick some music to accompany us on our journey, because we are collecting songs for a season 4 mixtape. I am so curious about the picks this week because, as Aphra mentioned, I freaking love this episode.
A very good episode, very solid episode. So you got to have a good track.
It's a very heavy one.
I went with Find Someone by Arizona. Specifically, there's this one line, clipping wings off of angels has always been my religion.
Oh,
I mean, the song goes real hard, and the rest of it is all about finding someone to fill a void. But that line in particular,
I think I need to lie down after that.
I'm so glad I have this rope on because it's hugging me because I need a hug.
I'm sorry, but
That's really good.
Damn, Noah. And I thought my mixtape suggestion was good. Going along with the songs inspired by Angels theme, my song is Holy Branches by Radical Face. This song has always reminded me of Cass, like a lot. There's this line that goes, "The earth don't give a damn if you're lost."
Oof.
And this whole song is about, everybody's bones are just holy branches. There's a hole in your chest from the time that you were born. It's a gorgeous song. I really highly recommend it. And the Cass feelings, I have a lot of feelings about season 4 Cass right now. And this song is the first song on my Cass playlist for this reason.
good choice.
It's a really good one.
That's excellent.
Strong.
I picked Sorrow by Pink Floyd. And you guys know I'm a very Dean person. So this is a very Dean song. It says, "A man lies and dreams of green fields and rivers, but awakes to a morning with no reason for waking. He's haunted by the memory of a lost paradise in his youth or a dream he can't be precise. He's chained forever to a world that's departed." And I'm not gonna continue.
Damn. So we're just like going hard today.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about the episode
The
yet.
episode doesn't pull any punches, so neither should we, honestly.
Yeah.
Elayna, I just noticed yours in the list, and okay, sure,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So to that end, mine is Exile by Taylor Swift featuring Bon Iver. The initial reason that this song popped into my head was because of the line, "I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending." That just, to me, like that line, the energy of it and what it's suggesting is very much Dean. Like he doesn't like where this is going to go, but he can't really help it. But if you look through the rest of the song, there are so many lyrics I think that could apply to just the intense emotions going on, like second, third, and 100th chances, balancing on breaking branches. Like, oh, it's just, the energy's there. And I'm in a Taylor Swift mood, as most of us are at the time that this episode's coming out. So
At the
That's
time,
my
any-
pick.
I have been listening to Taylor
this
Swift like crazy.
episode.
Like I'm just getting into like her music like real deep because I already knew her.
Welcome to
So now that I know this song and I've been playing it, like now you ruined it for me.
great.
You're welcome.
Get ready for Taylor Swift Natural.
yeah, Swiftienatural is my favorite part
Every
of the
song
fandom.
will hurt 50 times worse once
bet.
you connect it to Supernatural.
We should send you our dear friend Beth has an excellent playlist, and it's called Destiel Taylor's version, and
My
it
God.
is god tier playlist.
Shout out to Beth from Driver Picks the Pod.
I will. I
for-
will. I want that link. I will.
we'll ask Beth for it. We'll get back to you.
But now that we've got our mixtape playing, it's time for the hunt of the week. Today's episode is On the Head of a Pin through the theme of cowardice. Where do you guys want to start? It's a lot happened.
Before we even get into like talking about the episode, I want to know what Noah thinks. Because I finished watching this right before we started recording, and there's some reveals. We've been waiting for this reveal about Sam for the entire season, and trying the amount of times I've talked about it and then had to cut it out, like bite my tongue.
We have almost spoiled this like 86 times, and so I need to know.
First of all, nasty.
Lay it on us, Noah.
Cool. Not loving that. He said, "No, not okay, sir." What part of you thinks that's okay and is fine? Like, okay, it's been weeks since the last time. Sure, that's a good sign. But
First of all, it's a biohazard. Second of all,
we talked about how demon fucking gives you more powers, but I guess this is just a more direct way of, he said, let's skip the sex part, get straight to the powers.
even know what to say to that.
We're professional podcasters, everyone. And I love us.
The biggest reveal this episode was easily Uriel is the funniest angel in the garrison. Ask anyone.
But he says it so seriously.
Don't call.
It's the ask anyone for
Ask
me.
anyone. Like, okay, who am
Like,
I gonna
ask
ask?
anyone.
Fuck
Duh.
you.
We are at peak Castiel humor in this episode,
We are.
Honestly.
despite
And Gady.
everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's like really one of the only moments of humor that we do get.
Yeah.
Everything else is just depression on toast.
I mean,
Angels getting killed left and right. It's heavy stakes this episode.
I can't remember. Is this the first time that we've seen angel wings when an angel's been killed? Because this is the first time we've seen a dead angel and
I feel
seeing
like
the
it's
wing.
not. I think we've seen that before.
Have we seen that before?
I think we saw it
I don't.
it happened before.
when Anna died. Because her body got killed, right?
Thank you.
And so
yes, that's
Anna
it. Thank
died,
you. There it
Saw
is.
the wings, and then
Right.
now she's got the
so
same body.
that wasn't new.
But it was really cool to see it 3
It's
times.
one of my favorite effects they do on the show.
Yeah,
Is
like
that
huge
visually.
wings.
It's a cool shot.
That technically they don't have wings, but they put them like when they die. It's so crazy, but I love it.
Yeah. It's a cool, very cool.
It's a cool thing where like their true form shows up, but
Yeah.
only.
Yeah. It's pretty up there for me with like also the fact that like little whoosh sound that it makes whenever an angel
Mhm.
teleports
Yeah.
like off screen. I think that's one of the nicest like practical
I love
effects that
that.
Supernatural does.
A very good touch.
I hated when they took it out, and that's just all I'm gonna say because I spoke too much. But like we stopped hearing it that
Yeah.
often later, and I just missed it. I miss it so much. Like, where's the flapping?
It's also just such a nice cue as a viewer of like, this is an angel, they've appeared. It's also a great way of showing us before a character sees,
Mm.
so we can be aware.
I just have to say that when they do that, and specifically when Cass shows up for Dean, I just can't imagine what Dean thinks. Like, he's probably not looking because Cass always appears like behind him or wherever. Dean doesn't see him immediately, so he hears it. And I can just imagine what Dean thinks. It's like he's here or something like so personal to him. Like the sound becomes like so familiar and so
Yeah, that's true.
Like the
it's-
supernatural equivalent of the TARDIS sound.
Really is actually.
Honestly.
I did actually have another question for Noah.
Yes.
I wanted to know how you felt about seeing Anna back.
Okay. Loved seeing Anna back. I'm glad she's not, gone. And it was cool having the same actor. It's odd because like angels can appear as different people. So it's odd. You shouldn't really get attached to characters' looks, really, because this is Alistair's 4th and 5th looks, like
Yeah. Alistair's
Yeah.
been like 3 episodes and he's at a different vessel every single time.
Yeah.
This one he gets 2 separate ones. And it's like chill, bro.
But the one
Just
that
burning
in
through
the
them.
later half of the episode is, I think,
Okay.
like the best. He's a
The
killer
most
actor.
terrifying
Yeah, he kills it. You know why? It's because he was in Psych.
Why are they always in Psych?
Psychnatural.
Yep, he was in Psych. He was in Peacemaker, Star
Oh.
Trek Discovery. He's
Yeah,
What?
that's true.
he's pretty baller.
He was in fucking Star Trek Discovery.
He's got skills.
Well, then I have to go back and rewatch.
Christopher Hairdoll.
You're like the king of knowing the side actors.
I try. I'm sorry.
No, you don't try. You just always do. You always know who they are
It's
and can point
great.
to like
It's
3
great.
other things they've been in.
It's just visual association. But Anna coming back and giving Cass definition of doubt was such a phenomenal take and phenomenal touch.
Cool. This
I like it.
This is Anna's like mentor arc,
Mm-hmm.
and I
yeah.
adore it. I love that they bring her back in a mentor for Cass sort of role.
Which just tells me that she's going to die. Like mentorship roles end in a tragic death, spiraling the next person forward. So it's like, yeah, she
But
already
it's,
died.
I didn't her instantly as like a mentor, but more like snapping Cass out of it. Just wake up and see things how they are.
I think that's what a mentor does, though. I think that's like
Yeah, but it's like more aggressive because she's
Oh,
like
yeah.
always so angry. And
she's not so
it's
nice,
like-
super nice to him. but also he's being kind of a dick this episode. So
Yeah.
I will also I think it's interesting that they bring her back for this episode because Cass and Dean have sort of been at odds for the past 4 episodes. Ever since Anna's last episode, things have not been the first part of the season, the first 8 episodes, there was the antagonism of they don't really know each other, but there was starting to be a little bit of trust there. I think they were building, and then everything that happened with Anna really shattered that trust, and I think they've been really at odds with each other for a few episodes, and so now this is when that all kind of comes to a head in
on the head of a pin.
On the head of a pin.
Such a good turn.
Which is a reference to a theological kind of term, and anyway, it was connected to the study of angelology. I don't know a lot about it. I'm just from my cursory learning about it. The full phrase is how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. So we're thinking about the metaphor about why angels exist, what their powers are, who do they really serve.
That's such a great double entendre though as well, because I always, every time I hear it, I always think, the head of a pin, there's torture that happens in this episode. So it's like pins, and they say that poking and prodding, it's a really interesting
double meaning.
Oh, I love it when Supernatural does that. Oh, I also really
I didn't know about this kind of
historical
side
context
of the lore, but it's just it just
really
makes me love the
adds to
show
it.
more. Yeah, it really does.
Very, very interesting.
I wanted us to get into the cowardice angle, because I think that's such a cool topic for this episode, because oh my goodness.
So much of the angels' actions are driven by, one could argue, cowardice, lack of bravery to make their own choices.
Yeah.
Well, Uriel even says later, when he's trying to tempt Cass to join him, he's all you have to do is be unafraid. All you have to do to make a choice, to break out. And he is presenting a rebellion, but so is Anna, and so is Dean.
Style, yeah.
They're all presenting Cass is being asked to choose between multiple different rebellions or to continue on in obedience. And it does come down to does he have the courage, or will he stay, obedient but safe?
At the same time, I feel like Cass, it's not that he's faking it, but he knows in his heart that he is more driven already to side with Dean. He knows it, but he just won't admit it. He's I'm doubting. I don't know what to do. I'm just questioning myself so much. But it's dude, you know what you want to do. You just don't want to say it. And which is obviously valid, because he's an angel and he still has he's still so used to obeying God and everything. But I think that in this episode we see that he just really deeply, he knows, I want to side with Dean because he is the one I trust. I just trust him completely. And it's not the same that he feels with Uriel, because he's okay, I trust this dude, but not that much because he's shady. But with Dean, it's 100% trust.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because he's known Uriel and Anna for millennia.
Which is such an interesting thing. He recognizes, I think, that this relationship he has with Uriel is based on them both pledging allegiance to God and just following orders. And he has been, since Dean got thrown into his orbit, he has been doubting that. He expressed that way back in episode 7. He said to Dean, can I tell you something I've never told anyone before? He's been starting to express doubt. And then he has all these conversations with Anna in this episode about if God exists, what does God really want? Do you think God would want this? Do you think this could possibly be what God wants? And Anna just kind of continually saying, what you're feeling is doubt. What you're feeling is good. The fact that you're considering disobedience is good. And Cass is this is the worst thing I've ever experienced. I hate this.
Well,
but I cannot run away from it.
Kind of on the flip side, I'm curious how this is, unfortunately, Noah, this is a thing I don't know that you'd really be able to answer, but I don't think it's spoilery either. For me, this feels like the episode where Cass realizes he's in love with Dean. Did anybody else get that energy from it, or is that just me?
I actually don't think that's actually not where I think that this is the episode where Cass realizes that he doesn't believe in God. I think that's what's happening. I don't think it's a romantic. I think it's when he realizes his fate is tied to Dean's.
Okay, that's a nice angle.
A good one, actually. I was just gonna say, I was gonna agree with Elayna because of the specific line of, he says, emotions, doorway to doubt.
Yeah.
Because I have not gone through it like that, but I can imagine that it's something that a person who is questioning, for example, their sexuality could say, like, it's a doorway to doubt. All of these emotions that I'm having for this person are just making me question myself so much. So probably he wasn't like, oh, I'm in love with him, and he was so certain of it, but it definitely like it opened that door in this episode.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like, and
That's
what
really
you're kind
good.
of pointing out, Elayna, like what you're picking up on, I think, is that sense that he's recognizing that like what's driving him to doubt is ultimately super tied to like the choices Dean has made and the challenges Dean has put to him. And so he's realizing that something about Dean represents something, and he like something that he wants as much as he is terrified of it. And like he even like in this episode, he kind of goes back and forth, like he pushes and pushes back, like he says to Anna, even after he said, I'm considering disobedience, he then immediately after, like 2 minutes later, he's like, please tell me what to do. And he asks her like twice to tell him what to do, and she's like, no, like it is time to think for yourself.
Which is something Dean has been telling him from the jump.
Literally, since he met him, it's like, you know what, do what you think is right.
He's being like, just because you think God told you, or just because these are your orders, doesn't mean it's right.
Well, and something that's interesting to point out is that Anna does make the mention of like, when he asks like, tell me what to do, she says like old times, which leads us to believe that there was a point where Anna was his superior that he answered to.
She says that in their previous episode.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like how you can have like somebody that like, somebody new come into your life and say something, like give you a piece of advice, but it takes hearing it from somebody who knows you very well, somebody you've known a long time, hearing the exact same phrase, the exact same piece of advice, but hearing it from them is what can help sometimes make something click.
I love that, because that really honors like Cass and Anna's relationship, because I think she's super, like, I really think sometimes I think it gets represented that like Dean is the only one, or like the primary one that taught Cass about free will, and I'm like, Anna is crucial.
Yeah,
crucial to
deny
season
Anna's
4 arc.
Importance is just a detriment.
And just
Can I just ask, how did you feel having Anna back this episode? Childhood awakening.
Hard eyes. I have hard eyes whenever Anna's on screen.
Okay, good.
I love her. I think also this really rounds out her storyline of like, she is so pretty. That's not why I
No, but she's so powerful in this episode, coming in at the end saying there may or may not be, but there is still me. Fuck.
Yeah, like he is stabbing a bitch in the throat,
like the moment
in the throat.
Yeah.
But now that we're talking about Anna, what I do find, weird, but that's just who I am. Why was she like trying to hold Cass's hand? Because it's a little details.
I think she cares about him.
Yeah, I do see that like she cares a lot about him, but the way that they frame it and the way that they shot it, it's like, what is the purpose of this? Because definitely the relationship between Cass and Anna has always been like, as you said, she has been superior to him, and
they're
Cass,
also siblings.
So it's a really weird way, the way they frame it. That's just something that I saw.
Are you referring to like the because she does the thing where she like puts her hand over his later on, she like the physicality of like the way she connects with him?
Exactly.
Can I offer an interpretation of that? I think that was a moment in which they're kind of trying to illustrate that rebellion is a very human thing.
Ooh, yes.
Like, because the angels, when you see them, angels don't really touch each other. They're kind of just like they're very stiff. They're just kind of standing there, just like, hi, I'm an angel.
Vessels are like, by their definition, vessels are just like a tool to be used.
Exactly. So they don't really have they don't have those physical sort of connections in the same way that humans do. And so Anna reaching out and touching his hand, to me, I thought it was a really beautiful choice of like, she's trying to be like, listen to, like, I'm trying to get you to understand something. And there's that physicality of like, I'm reassuring you. I'm like putting my hand on yours to let you know that I'm here for you.
Focus on the moment.
Oh, that's really good.
And she's like, she's trying to snap him out. Like you said earlier, Allie, like she's trying to snap him out of.
Yeah, probably it's a way of saying like, I have been where you are right now.
Yes. Which I think is
I really
totally
like
her
that.
experience. Like she has had the experience of doubting and then falling. And so she is, I think, trying to pass that along to Cass to be like, yes, it's terrifying, but this is a good thing, you know.
But he has
that
to
you
choose
feel.
it for himself. She can't force him into it. He has to choose it.
Yeah.
Now that you
Beautiful.
said falling, I mean, when Cass says, I am nothing like you, you failed. And it's like,
Oh,
dude, you
buddy.
don't know the half of it. Because it's just,
That's one of those moments where you're like, you sweet summer child, you.
And I love that they're giving us this like these Anna Cass contrasts of like she is someone who voluntarily chose to like cut out her grace and become human. And Cass is also falling from grace, but in an entirely different way in this season. He is falling from grace in these like tiny little choices he's making to rebel.
yeah, it's not like that instantaneous, like
No, not
cutting
one
out your
moment.
throat and just, it's little moments, literally, not even like whole episodes, just this specific moment that just makes him a fall.
This is a really weird segue, but it's just something that while it's on my mind, I want to ask it. How did y'all interpret the part when it's towards the end of the episode when Sam is like really pissed at Cass and he's like, you get in there like miracle now. And Cass says that he can't fix Dean. Are his powers restricted or is it a moral thing? Like that part always kind of threw me. And I'm curious if y'all had an interpretation
It's
of
a
that.
really interesting question because usually when Cass says, I cannot do this, he specifies like I don't have my powers or whatever.
Yeah, he says why.
He says why, but this time he doesn't. Probably, I want to be so ridiculous and go ahead and say that probably he cannot heal Dean in that moment because probably Cass thinks that Dean needs this experience to probably rebuild himself because Dean just does not believe in himself anymore by the end of the episode. He says, find someone else. And probably Cass, because of the fate thing again, like because he knows what Dean is meant to do, probably Cass says he has to go through this part to like rebuild himself again and to like, I don't know, to probably believe in himself again. It's
Yeah.
just something crazy that I'm thinking now.
I think that it was to not attract attention because if Cass is trying to side with Anna and wants to lean that direction, then he needs to go along with whatever plan has been laid in motion, and the plan is not said to heal Dean. So if he did, he would show that he's deviating from the plan.
He's playing double agent.
And so they might attract more attention to him. So maybe he's trying to play it cool for a little bit.
I like that. I also think about the fact that I think what Sam is identifying is that like Dean's not just like Dean's physically injured, but his like psychologically, like his psyche is sort of broken. And Cass is like, I can't fix that.
Mhm.
Like Cass can fix a lot. Cass could go in and fix his physical body. Cass can't fix the mental damage that's been done by these events. And I wonder if that's also what he's hearing is he's going like, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
They did also, just kill an angel. So like there's plenty of eyes on them. Like
That's
they got a lot going on. They got to cover their ass a little bit.
Yeah, an angel who has been recruiting people to basically like work on the side of Lucifer to try and raise Lucifer, which like is a big freaking deal.
Big deal.
Like,
and
this is the first time that we have angels that are defecting.
Noah, I'm curious your reaction to finding out that Dean is the one who broke the first seal.
Dean being the first seal. Oof. That could also be a reason why Cass is somewhat attracted to trusting Dean right off the front is because he knows that Dean is the righteous man, the righteous man who got broken but is still righteous. So
and Cass says even later at the end of the episode, Cass says it's not blame that falls on you, Dean, it's fate. The righteous man who begins it is the only one who can finish it. It's even after everything, there is still something about Dean that is tied to the fate of the world. And Cass is like, which is really interesting because so much of this episode is about like, can you make your own choices? What choices does God want you to make? And can you make your own regardless? And then Cass turns around and is like, actually, it was fate that led to that seal getting broken. Like, this isn't on you, Dean. Which, I mean, considering the circumstances,
They keep
what
flipping
else was
back and
he
forth.
thinking?
Fate,
Yeah.
free will, pick one. Destiny,
Yeah.
you have no choice. You have a choice. Come on.
These are the deep questions that Supernatural wrestles with so very well over the course of its existence. But I also want to call attention to the line, which I think of all of the depressing things that happen this episode, probably the most gut-wrenching for me to listen to is, you know, for what it's worth, I would give anything not to have you do this. Like, sweet
Anything?
baby.
Like you said, anything?
Anything, Cass? Anything?
I mean, and it's not just that specific line that breaks me. It's just in the whole episode, the fact that Dean is constantly asking Cass, Cass, please don't let me do this. Cass, you know that I cannot do this. And he's like constantly asking Cass, and Cass hates every second of it. And again, the trust that they have built, but also something that I mean, now that I have watched the whole show and going back to this, is just how they parallel Dean and Cass as, you know, they have always known they were rebellious, or they have always been different from their parent, you know, in a way. Those were air quotes, sorry.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, Dean has that whole line at the end where he's like, I'm not the guy either of our dads wanted us to be.
He says that line because by this time, Dean still has a very, very low opinion of himself. And he still lives by what he thinks John wanted for him. And so that's very, like, those feelings are still very rooted in Dean.
Yeah.
And same in Cass, he still has, what does God want from me? And I want to do what God asks me to do. And then both of them, I mean, their journeys are so different, but so similar at the same time, because they just needed something or someone to just tell them, you know what, you don't have to be this person anymore. You can be whoever you want to be, which, I mean, they are that person for each other, but at the same time, Dean just eventually becomes the man that he wants to be on his own, and it takes him a while, but both of them have very similar journeys, and I just thought that they parallel that, and it's very obvious in this episode.
In this episode, yeah.
It's fascinating that Dean is so set that he is not the man that his dad wanted him to be, and yet he is following up in his dad's footsteps by John being the one who was supposed to bring about the apocalypse. But now it's his son, Dean. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so I have an opinion on that, actually. I think
bring it.
Alistair is lying out of his ass. I don't think John was ever the righteous man.
Actually, see, that was my next thing, is that how is this man going to be the righteous? Okay.
I do not think he is. I think
Come on.
that is entirely because Alistair is messing with Dean.
That's definitely a lie.
That's entirely a torture tactic.
Like, I think we have no evidence in the show aside from demons saying this. We have no evidence that that's true. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's totally a lie. And something that I also read someplace else is that how the hell do they pretend us to believe that John lasted longer than Dean? Like,
yeah, what?
What's John gonna hold out for? Like,
John lasted like tops 10 years. I mean, I'm sorry, but
if John was offered that deal,
bitch lasted 10 years and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not possible that he lasted longer than Dean.
No way.
This is a little bit of a segue back to something that we were just talking about with, like, kind of how Dean sees himself. The fact that our episode theme is cowardice. I feel like Dean thinks that he's a coward. And
yes,
that is
absolutely.
something that really breaks me in watching this, because it's like Dean has no idea how strong he is for, like, everything that he's been through, and, like, you know, the line that Cass says to him about, you know, this isn't your fault and everything. But I think that Dean very much, to see him go from, like, I'm in torture mode to the finding out he was the one who broke this seal. Just Jensen deserved 4 Emmys for that scene alone in the progression of his face.
Don't get me started on his faces. Like, the way that he breaks and then he gets mad again and he breaks again, and it just switches back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's why I love that this was a topic for this episode, because it's just Dean always thinking that he is a coward when he is not, and thinking that his father was so brave. It's just that Dean has so many mixed feelings about his father all the time. Some of the times he's got him on a pedestal and he's like, John was, you know, the perfect father. He took care of us, whatever. But other times he also goes and says he didn't do a good job taking care of us. And so Dean just never knows what John truly wanted from him. And so that's what leads Dean to never know who he really is. But at the same time, he always knows what's the right thing to do. And it's just all this messed up situation that he has created for himself, because he never knows what John actually wanted from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that like Dean thinks he's a coward because like free will is so ingrained in him, as is this value. And so he thinks that any choice that he's ever made, and specifically the choice that he made like when he was given the offer in hell, that because he chose it, that he is 100% responsible for this choice, that he could have held out, that if his free will had been stronger, he was stronger. He was stronger if he was braver, if he wasn't a coward. Like, I think so tied to how much he values free will. And you know, the fact is that Cass points out, like, this, you know, this was fate. Like, there were cosmic forces that were pressuring towards this end. And that's not to say that Dean's choices don't matter, because they absolutely do. They shift the course of this episode. They've shifted things before. They will shift things again. But there's this like interplay of like these powerful beings imposing fate, and these like mostly human characters like pushing back against it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting in this episode to see like how much Dean's agency is taken away. And like we've been seeing that in the last few episodes. Like last episode, we saw that a whole time. Like Dean's agency, like Sam's agency is growing this season, and Dean's agency is like slipping away. And
how interesting that in the growing agency is portrayed as like going down a dark path, and Dean, who's, you know, this character that's like losing that faith, he's seen as the character, like that losing of faith is the thing that's keeping him in the light in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like Sam's agency has this dark underbelly and this like danger to it. But also, like, at the same time, Sam has the appearance of agency in so many ways. He's also trapped by the fact that he doesn't feel like there's any other options. He's got like the people that are willing, the only people willing to work with him are demons, because the angels are like, yeah, the second you stop being useful, we will kill you. Like Sam is like, Dean can't do these things anymore. He needs help. Like I'm the only one who can do it. And the only one that will work with me is Ruby. The only one that will work with me is a demon. And so like Sam is like, you know, he's feeling like he has agency, but it's all coming at this like terrible cost of this like addiction that's starting to.
I mean, this episode is very centered on Dean and Cass, for instance, but with Sam, I mean, this is a very, you know, important episode for Sam, because he also has a very, very low opinion of himself by this point. Very deep down, he just thinks that the only way that he can get things done or that he can help is by drinking demon blood. So he also thinks of himself as someone that is not brave enough unless he has, you know, that extra juice. And I mean, it's just so annoying when both of them are like, but I'm not good enough. And then, but you are good enough. And then the other is like, I'm not good enough. And it's just so, you know, back and forth.
No, like Sam's seeking redemption, and he's seeking it, but he's also like doesn't have any way towards it other than by sacrificing his own humanity.
Something about like Sam's motives is that he, in a very twisted way, he's still at his core Sam Winchester, and Sam Winchester is always going to do whatever he can to help his brother. And like, even though he's going through this very, very dark arc at the moment, like the reason that he wants to take on Alistair is because he's like, Dean can't do it. And on the surface, that comes off as very like, oh, this is my bravado. I'm stronger than my brother, yada, yada. But I think what doesn't really get addressed too much in the episode is that at his core, Sam is kind of doing this out of concern for Dean, because he sees underneath that bravado that Dean is always putting forth. He knows just how broken Dean is. And even though he's choosing to execute it in a way where it seems like he's like belittling Dean, I think the real reason behind that is that love for Dean and that concern for him. And that's the part that makes like this arc that we're seeing over the course of season 4 up to this point, like this deterioration of their brotherhood. What makes it so gut-wrenching is because at the end of the day, they both are still doing it out of care for each other.
Yeah.
They're just doing it. They're making dumb choices for good reasons.
Yes.
And it's so
the plot of Supernatural.
And it's just
an entire plot.
Yeah. And it's just really hard to watch.
Yeah, well, there's the quote early in the episode where like Sam Sam, Dean says like, I'm just getting tired. And Sam says, well, get angry. And like, that's, I think, so indicative of what the paths both of them are on, is like Dean is getting more and more disillusioned and tired, and his trauma is catching up to him. And Sam's just getting angrier as a way of dealing with his own trauma.
Yeah, I mean, it's and this shifts a lot, which is what I was commenting there, like all intrusive in the notes. There is eventually an episode where he goes and says, well, get pissed is something that Dean says, but now Sam is too tired. And so it's just one of them has to always be stronger than the other, emotionally, physically, whatever. But in this episode, it's like both of them are just, they're just so lost and they don't know what to do. And Sam always is obviously desperate in this episode.
Noah, is there anything else like you picked up on this episode, or you?
No, not in particular.
I mean, this is the ex-religious kid in me, but like this episode is so good for the like religious stuff.
Oh yeah.
Gotten into it a bit, but just like there's so many lines like, the father you love, you think he wants this, you think he'd ask this of you, you think this is righteous. And then later on that goes like, you can't win, I still serve God, you haven't even met the man. Like it was chilled from like the lines in this episode.
Powerful.
The one that really gets me is when Alistair is like quoting like this, it feels like a prophecy of, and like the righteous man who, sheds blood in hell. Like I literally was sitting there, like I was under my blanket, like watching it on my phone, and I was like quoting it along with him because it's just so fucking epic.
Yeah.
The whole book of Revelations is prophecy, right? So it's somebody that predicts how this is all gonna go, and supposedly the will of God and whatnot. So he is reciting some age-old prophecy type stuff, but we're living it now.
Yeah,
We in it.
It's good. Really it's good stuff.
Now, I was just going to say real quick that this show is really, I mean, it's apt for everyone in the sense that, I mean, I'm also like a former religious person, but my aunt, I always remember this because she's always like, but that show is really blasphemy. And then 5 minutes later, she's sitting down, like invested in it. And it's like,
every religious person who is in like, Supernatural started that way.
You were saying?
Listen,
she loves Cass, by the way. She's like, but Cass is like the main character of the show, right? So it's just
true.
I love how this show is for everyone, like non-religious, former religious, and religious people. Like for everyone.
Yeah.
There's something for all of us.
Well, on that note, this seems like a beautiful time to transition into our Going Meta section, where we are tracking lore, representation, behind the scenes trivia, and more. First up, let's start with our rep check. Let's start with a good note for today. I found yet another reference for trans Dean supremacy.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one that picked that one up.
Yep.
Okay, wait, I missed this one. Please
Alistair is
inform me.
He's trying to bully Dean and trying to make him feel belittled. And he says, Daddy's little girl, he broke.
And then later on says, you're not the man your father wished you would be. And then that comes up again at the end of the episode. And like, I don't know. I love it. It's great, like,
adding another tally to the score for trans Dean. Loving it.
Also, this is just because I love this. I mean, the trans Dean headcanon, is that what you call it? I haven't
blood theory
that much.
It's real.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. But I just love that every that Dean gets, called, a girl or whatever, it just doesn't, register. It's like, yeah, so what? And yeah, and he also says a line in this episode that it's like, is when he starts torturing Alistair, and then he says, I just didn't want to ruin my shoes, because Dean is like a germaphobe and he's like a perfectionist. And he is always like super clean and super, like, well, his hair is always like well done and everything.
True.
And he says, I just didn't want to ruin my shoes. It's like, so, it's a very Dean thing to be careful of, his appearance and his looks and his clothes and whatever. So I just love that how both of these things combine in this episode. It was really nice.
I do need y'all to allow me just one moment to be extra feral, but like Dean's whole demeanor in that
sequence
is very much reminds me of the gif from Saturday Night Live where the guy just goes, well, mark me down as scared and horny. Like just Dean, what are Dean? Dean. Like,
what are you?
it's a very big daddy sorry kind of moment. It's just really upsetting. And that's enough of that for me. And I just needed
That,
to get
as
that
Noah
out.
says, is very powerful.
Very powerful.
Powerful.
On less funny notes.
Yeah, I do.
We have another iteration of the junkless joke. Just not necessary
Like,
or enjoyable.
why?
The more
We
and
don't
more he
why.
says that, I think it's more and more him just wanting to see what's like. He just wants Cass to prove him
What's
wrong.
going
You
on?
know,
I
he's
mean,
like,
yeah.
come on
What?
over, change my mind. Junkless,
Literally,
right? Cass?
literally, that's the
Come
only
on.
reason that
I got
he
my
would
shirt
be
off. Come
saying
on,
that.
buddy. Let's go. I'll help you out. Yeah.
I love how truly off the rails we've gone for today's going meta section. This is excellent content
Can I just
here.
add one more thing for this?
Always.
Now, I mean, was Uriel so crushed on Lucifer or what? Like, this dude was like, I mean, that was my
He was
vibe.
so
I don't know. I'm
beautiful.
so bad at this. But he was
It's
like,
true.
and he was even looking up and was like, he was so beautiful. And then the
Well, I
humans
mean,
were
that's
like,
pretty classic, like, religious
very classic,
symbolism. Like,
but
that
Lucifer was the
this
most
beautiful,
beautiful
glorious
all the
angel.
yeah,
He's very like attractive.
Uriel's the
he's like-
funniest. Lucifer's the prettiest.
the prettiest.
Yeah. Cass is
And
most likely
Cass-
to succeed.
The way that he said it, I was just like, did they have a crush on Lucifer? Like,
I say
I'm gonna-
Cass is
I'm
the
gonna-
biggest simp.
What did you say? Noah? Cass is the most likely to succeed.
Yeah.
Listen, that's
I
too
heard you say it
soon.
under your breath, and I was like, we need to make sure that makes it into the recording.
it has to be there.
So get this. I was looking into the lore. We've kind of already talked about the seals, was John really a righteous man? Is there any
No.
other lore in this episode specifically?
The really fancy devil's trap, I
Yeah.
think, goes in the lost cannon jar. Because that never really comes up again, but it's like it's like, I feel like it's one of those things that's just a very like iconic supernatural contraption, but like we never get to see it again, which is a bummer.
Yeah, the angels seem to have it. Like the angels are the ones that bring it in, but then they never.
Cass says he made it. Like he
made
put
it, and it's
together.
old Enochian.
Do they just leave it there? Some poor person who like rents this warehouse after them just walks in and like it just
Walks
is
right
rooted with
back
this
out.
horrific sight. Yeah, it's just like, actually no, I don't want it. I'm not buying
You
it.
know what?
I do have a question. I don't know if it's about lore, but I forgot to say it before.
It's all good.
It's like at the beginning of the episode where Cass goes and sees the dead angel, and he looks at the chest, and it's like, okay, he checks it out and everything. Does he know or not know that this is an angel blade injury? Because that's the whole point of this
Yeah.
episode. It's like they are
It is-
trying to find out who is killing the angels, but technically Cass should know what an angel blade stab looked like, because
That is very
it's the shape
true.
of it. But then Cass is like, we don't know who's killing the angels.
We think it must be
Yeah.
the demons.
It must be the demons, yeah. And then it's like, but it's this shape, and it's very, very, characteristic of an angel blade. And Cass owns an angel blade, so that wasn't really.
Well, but is that the only type of weapon that could pierce in that shape? I feel like there's plenty of different weapons. Not ones that could take down angels. Fair. That's
But yeah, I mean, that's
It seems weird that
exactly
he
my
wouldn't have
point.
considered that it could be
Yeah.
another. But again, then maybe that's also
maybe that was the start of the doubt in this episode.
because maybe that's going back to the idea that like angels are trained specifically not to question. Anna even says like questioning and doubting was like the one thing they weren't allowed to do.
Yeah.
So he would never have considered that angels could be behind this.
Or he
Yeah.
probably wanted to just like double check, literally, like go ahead and torture a demon and see what they can find. And if they find out that the demon was lying, then okay, it was a demon who killed them. But it was so interesting to me to
Mhm.
see that Cass just saw it and he was like, what is this? And he just shut up about it.
I like the interpretation that he does know exactly what it is. And it's actually not. It's actually just that he isn't willing to question or isn't ready to question it yet.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a
Adds
good take.
layer. That's a layer to like his development in this episode.
Yeah, it's really
Interesting.
nice.
I wish that we had a little scorecard and they kept us updated on, how many seals are broken currently.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think I don't actually know how many we're at this
It's
point.
been a while since they've mentioned.
We're
Maybe
at a number
there
of
has-
them.
There
Like,
have
they're
been
losing.
they mentioned something in the episode of where Pamela dies, that they say like there have been like, I don't know, a lot. I mean, the number suddenly rose like dramatically from before to that episode where Pamela dies.
I'm kicking myself because I just rewatched it, but I don't remember that line.
I don't remember that either.
Okay, so in Chris Angel's a douchebag, which was a few episodes ago, Ruby mentions that Lilith has broken 34 seals. So we're looking at this being at least 35, if not more. That was a couple of episodes ago. So we're looking at least like 35 seals at this point. More than half has been broken.
Wow.
Well, wait,
Yeah, it
the
was
seal
really dramatic.
doesn't actually get broken this episode, does
Oh
it?
no, that's true. You're right. That's true.
Yeah, we just talk about the first one.
In Death Takes a Holiday.
That is a seal.
They avoided as well.
Oh, no, they avoided as well. So yeah,
They
so
avoided that
30
seal.
So 34 seals is.
But we get
is
confirmation that Dean was number one. And that's what's important.
Mhm.
That's what's important for all of the, all of the trigger that Dean has to endure.
Speaking of traumas and enduring them, let's pick a few people from this episode and call them out for the traumas that they've endured and how well they are enduring them. It's our blessing segment, our favorite part, honestly. Who would like to go first?
Allie, since you're our guest, we'll let you go first.
Okay, I was trying to pick because I think that all of the characters have a really important, arc in this episode. But I just have to bless Cass because, he has all of this questioning and doubt, just does not know what to do with his life anymore. So, as we were talking before, it's like one of the first times that Cass probably realizes that he's in love with Dean or that he's developing feelings for him. So I just have to go with Cass.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Who wants to go next?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bless Dean because he has gone through hell so much, literally and metaphorically, millions of times. And getting to finally get to the moment that he's dreamed of when he was in hell and getting to get a little bit of revenge on his tormentor is a lot to deal with. And whether or not he's truly happy with that is something he's got to figure out. And I don't wish that journey on many people. So proud of him.
Not anyone, but many people.
Any people.
There's a couple people that I wouldn't mind having.
That I wouldn't mind having.
Would
no,
not
it's very
hesitate.
specific. I just have to say that now that you're blessing Dean, we also have to bless him for his voice dropping like 10 octaves just for that specific scene with Alistair.
It's true.
Like,
I did notice that.
Jensen, like he probably couldn't talk for like the rest of the day with that voice in the Alistair torture part.
Yeah. Also just reminds me of the fact that Jensen lowered his voice because he was like, well, Dean wants to sound like his dad, like back in season 1, and so he got stuck.
Ruins me. He ruins me.
You made that choice, honey. We all benefit, but you did make that choice. I'm gonna also bless Cass today. I am obsessed with this process of like him losing one kind of faith and finding a different kind. I think I resonate with some of that experience personally of being so devoted to something and then having it kind of let you down and having to kind of renegotiate what do you believe and what do you have faith in. And I think that's really compelling. And I want to bless Cass for being in the middle of that sort of faith experience in this episode.
Nice.
Damn. Nicely done.
I was going to bless Dean as well, and I still do because oh sweet baby boy, like we said at the beginning of the episode,
girl.
I just I want to give him a hug that lasts for every day that he was in hell. But my blessing this week is going to be for Anna because what a legend to like invent free will all on your own.
That's my girl.
And just like reinvent it. There's people are always saying that phrase like like she could step on my throat and I would thank her, like she could stab me in the throat and I would thank her. And I just think that it was so funny going into the season because Abigail just kept mentioning like, oh my god, Anna, and I was like, am I going to become a simp for Anna? And I think I did. I think your mission is accomplished.
I've been successful.
I think I've been underappreciating her for too long because a lot
I
of
think
the
we
things
all do at some point.
Yeah, I think a lot of there are things that I had always attributed to Cass that I'm realizing are really like Anna was the one that was fueling a lot of that and that was encouraging that rebellion in him. And so yeah, I think that she had to like die and then go through the trouble of getting her old meat suit back, and I just think she's been through it and she's a legend. So I'm gonna bless Anna.
Blessings.
Good blessing. Good blessing. Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. You can make sure you are subscribed to Saving People Queering Things wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you haven't already, share our show with someone else you know who likes Supernatural or someone who doesn't like Supernatural.
Make them like Supernatural.
Convert them.
I'm actually the friend that converted me and I are converting someone else now. So
Hey,
I have
The
a friend
cycle
that
continues.
is so
It's
don't
like the
worry.
ring.
I'm doing my
The Lord's work.
the Lord's work. I'm doing my work.
You can find links to all of our social media, and you can join our Discord server through our website, queeringthingspodcast.com. Allie, thank you so much for coming on this episode. Is there anywhere that
thank you.
people can find you or your work on the internet?
Well, I'm on Twitter as State of Loving Ed. I am also on Tumblr under the same name.
Perfect.
And yeah, I think that's it for now because
You
I'm
have a
basically
book
using
coming
Twitter.
out very soon.
I do have a book coming out. Didn't want to say it, but I do. Thank
Well,
you,
maybe
Elayna.
you do.
We'll gently encourage you to say it. Self-promote.
Yeah, it's coming out on November 19th, first date, but
So it will be out when this
It's going to be out. That's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Love it.
so it's right around the corner, and you will find it on Amazon as well.
Dang. Go buy it now.
We
Yeah.
will have links to all of Allie's stuff in the episode description.
And if you are all caught up on Supernatural and want to go back to before the beginning, Abigail, as well as our friends Beth and KJ, and sometimes
occasionally
me, yes, and sometimes Elayna. I'm like the Y in the vowels.
That is the thing that I heard in my head when I started
Sometimes
saying it.
and sometimes Elayna. But they're watching their way through the Winchesters, and that podcast is over on Twitter where they're at Wayward Parents, and on Tumblr at Wayward Parents Pod. Go follow them and witness Abigail's return to Tumblr era because it's magnificent. Be sure to ride along with us next week as we discover episode 17, It's a Terrible Life, through the theme of grudges.
Thank you all for coming along for the ride, and we wish you a peaceful road until we meet again. But we all know that there will never be peace if you are
When we are
Supernatural.
Ended our whole careers.
I just had to. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.